can you please share your name?
Artisina Hill. I go by Artie. So I'm not from here. I am from Hampton, Virginia. I was born in D.C., raised in the Hampton area. My father was in the military. I was introduced to the library by my mom. I remember every Sunday after church, that would be our activity, which is a bummer here because I don't think the libraries are open on Sundays at all here. That's my passion, my thing to go on Sundays. So that's been a bummer since I've lived here. But I remember we would walk up to our local library and I would get as many books as I possibly could. And we'd stroll home, and I'm an only child. So we would do a lot of reading together in the backyard and playing Scrabble. That's one of my memories, in having the summer book reading. So when I became a parent, that was one of the things that I wanted to do, was introduce my kids to the library. And so as a military child, moving around to different locations, the library was one of the first things that we always connected to, because it was the place for books, but it was also the place for community. And I found that to be helpful to me as an only child, to be connected to the community immediately wherever we moved to. But also as a parent, it did the same thing for me. I turned into my mom, and I was taking my kids to the library. And I love that it has always been a home for people to be able to learn about themselves, but to connect with other people as well. And the children's programming is amazing. And so when we moved here to Hartford, even though my kids were older, it was one of the first things that we did was join our local library and get our library cards. And I remembered we were able to choose which one we wanted because they had different designs. So I thought that was really cool and made it a fun experience. And to connect to the library in Hartford in that way was an immediate feeling of home again. I don't know why I'm about to get emotional right now. I am feeling so full because I love the library. I love the library like I love NPR. I love all things community and connection and information and education. And it's always been a place that's been welcoming. I remember my favorite librarians like I remember my favorite teachers. Like I remember being a lonely at-home mom and having some place to take my kids. We would look forward to going, and the librarians would just welcome them with open arms. We're so excited to show them new books, and to the point now that my daughter is applying to get her master's in library sciences. So it's a full circle moment for me because I know that even if she weren't doing that, she loves to read. And I know that she got that from the exposure that I had, which was given to me by my mom. And not to say that my dad wasn't around, because he was, but my father, both of my parents were working parents. And I was a latchkey kid. And as an only child, books were my friend. I had lots of friends. I'm very social. But as an only child, you have a lot of downtime. I always wanted company and people to spend the night with me and share. But everybody has their own homes. And, with working parents, everybody's so busy. I had a lot of downtime, and I read a lot. And I see that and saw that in my daughter, where she keeps a record of all the books that she's read. And just having that exposure, she caught the bug. But I know that if I hadn't exposed even my son, and he's not a big reader, my husband's not a big reader, they read for purpose and for information, and then they go on. They'd rather watch a video and then go do the thing. My son's rebuilding his bike now. He didn't pick up a book to do that. He, goes on YouTube and does that kind of thing. So everybody is different. It's literacy, but I know that he would not even be as far along as he is in his life if he hadn't been exposed. Every night we read to them. As an at-home mom, I had a crazy schedule. So I recently found a schedule of how I kept the day with the kids. And when I was out of town with my husband, I would give this schedule to my parents. And I was like, I was really crazy. They never even said anything to me about, we raised you. We know how to do this. But I had on there, lunchtime. And then before nap, we read a book. It's quiet from 2 to 5. And then you go through the whole rest of the day, and then bedtime routine, the bath, and there's a book again. So there was always reading. And I know that if there wasn't that connection with books, I know that my son, who was not a natural person to reach for a book, he may not have been as far along in his schooling as he should have been. Literacy is so important. The history of Hampton is so rich. I mean, I think about Fort Monroe and the freed slaves and the 1619 Project and everything that stemmed out of there, the NASA women that helped the astronauts. The lady that wrote that book went to my home church in Hampton. So it's amazing how so much culture and history can be around you and you not even know it until somebody tells you about it. And that's the importance of books. That's the importance of documenting our history, because if we don't do that, it can die with the people that made it happen. And there was a time where we had rich oral tradition of telling stories, but we don't have that anymore. So I applaud you for this project and for being able to capture some of the stories that people have in their hearts, so that they can share it, so that it continues to live beyond them, right? Because we're not going to be here forever. The history of Hampton and the importance of literacy. I think about the people who were enslaved that were not allowed to read or write. And I think about how important that is just in everyday life to survive. And I said this to a friend the other day. I was like, man, like when you travel just to go to the airport, I mean, you have to pay attention. If I'm by myself, I have to really pay attention. Like, where am I going? What am I doing? You're reading things constantly. What if you can't read? I have a picture in my kitchen because when I lived in Richmond, I used to volunteer at a literacy organization because I love reading so much. And I'm like, this is a tool and a gift that everyone should have. Whether you want to read for pleasure or not, you have to know how to read to navigate. Imagine how many people are moving through life, existing, surviving, hiding their lack of reading. There's an erasure. It is about reading and how, we can't read a thing if it's not available. So we have states that are trying to erase the history that happened, trying not to recognize what happened. Things actually happened. This is not anything new that things haven't been taught in school. That is why our parents and our families fought so hard to be able to share things with us, because they knew we weren't going to get it in school. But the farther away we get from that history, if we're not continuing to pass it down and the kids are not learning it in school, then did it happen? Can we actually prove that it happened if we don't have a book or any record or recording of it happening? Because even if you live in the North End or wherever in the country, there is a library. And shame on us if we're not utilizing that resource, because it's free. It's free. I hate to say that you have to put, what is that commercial word? It talks about all these things that cost so much and then this, priceless. That you have to actually put a dollar value on something for it to mean something. I would hate for that to happen, because then someone who needs access may not be able to afford that. I've always wondered, why don't more of us, and I'm saying us because I am talking about more Black and brown people, take advantage of the library? And this is something I've wondered for a long time, because I was fortunate enough to be able to be at home with my kids and take them to the library in the middle of the day while my husband was working and taking care of us. That's a privilege. So I didn't see many people that looked like me during those times. And that was probably because the people that were looking like me had to be at work to take care of their families. And I think about that when I was PTA and PTO president. Why aren't more people coming out to the meetings? Why aren't they more involved? People are tired. They're trying to survive. And I don't want to make excuses, because I know that there are people who are doing all those things and are still involved. But maybe they have to choose what they're involved in, instead of taking the time to come to a PTO meeting because I worked all day long. I'm just going to be at home here with my family, with my actual family. I remember we moved here, and one of the first things that I always do when we move to a new place is connect. I'm in a few organizations that allow me to find people right away. So I reached out to the people. Where do you get your hair done? Where do you get your teeth cleaned? You're doing that, and then it's like, all right, where's the closest library? Because that also, to me, connects me to the community that I live in. Because it's not just about the books, but you can also see what events are happening there. You can see the flyers, and it's just a good hub for finding out information about what's going on in the community. I don't know why everybody doesn't do it. It's just amazing to me. And so I remember going and getting my library card and signing up the kids and getting connected to Libby. And I am a part of a couple of different book clubs. And I always look to see if it's on Libby first before I go to Audible, because I'm like, I don't have to use those credits if it's free here through my library card. So it's been a wonderful way to connect. And I remember one summer before my daughter was allowed to have a job, she volunteered here in the youth department. It's wonderful. And I met a couple of ladies in the podcasting class who were telling me that they really lived here at the library with their kids before the accident happened. So I get the newsletter from the library, and I saw it listed as something that was happening. I was like, oh, I like the idea of a podcast. I listened to a few. I've had dreams or two. I was like, let me just go see what that's about. So I signed up. It was amazing. I mean, honestly, the exposure to the equipment, to professionals who do it already, they can share their experience and tell you how to edit. And listening to a thing is one experience, but actually being exposed to it and getting to touch and maneuver buttons and set up the equipment, that was pretty smart. I will say this, that I was like, ding, ding, ding. When you come in and you check out the equipment and you go off to your station and set it up yourself, brilliant move. Not only does it save the person from doing it for everybody, it's not going to be with you every time you try to do a thing. And so if you want to check this equipment out and do it at your house, well, you need to know how to set it up. So that was brilliant to have us physically do it, because also you learned by doing a thing. It was a win-win because we learned how to set things up. Oh, my 10-year-old self. Just keep visiting. That the library is going to be important to you even as an adult. That it's fun now. And maybe you'll fall out of love with it a little bit when you become a teenager, because you'll be so busy doing other things that maybe you're not at the library so much. But you can always go back home, and it will be there for you and your family. Just hold on. Sis, utilize that library. You think that you have to do it all yourself, that there are no resources out there for you. The library is your second home. I mean, I keep saying that, but the library is all things. Because if you don't know how to do a thing, girlfriend, there are books about it. My husband is not a big reader, but he was reading a book about parenting. And he was like, you might want to read this. I'm like, really? Okay. And it ended up changing my life. And it was about this woman who came up with this easy plan, EASY, eat, activity, sleep, you time. And that's what she said that babies needed. They needed to eat, they needed some activity, they need to sleep. And when they're having to sleep, it's you time. If I hadn't read that book, I based that schedule, like my kids were on that schedule until they had to basically tell me, we're done with naps. I was like, are we really? Because I enjoyed the you time. Really? There's so much. Like, I didn't know what I was doing as a mom. And I had my mom and my mother-in-law, I had them as resources, but I wanted to do it myself. And I stepped out of the working world to raise these children. And I was like, now what? And I learned so much by reading. And then the library also has those programs for you and your children. And take advantage of those. The librarian. Like, you don't have to have money to go buy books. My daughter, I got to the point where I could go to Barnes & Nobles, but I felt like I was wasting my money because I'm like, what do you mean you're finished reading that? We just got that book today. So I was like, library, because I cannot keep up with you in the reading. So you can go, and it doesn't matter what your kid is interested in. There's a book for that kid, and they can open up their mind to the possibilities if you find the right book that fits their personality. And then you can also connect with other people while they're playtime and they're doing all the things. You're talking to other moms and sometimes dads who are there with their kids, and you can share experiences about how they're eating or not eating or whatever the thing is. You don't have to feel like you're doing it by yourself. It's a community. I love the library, and I think that all moms and dads should take advantage of all the things that the library has to offer, because it's not only good for you. I mean, listen, it was good for me because I was like, okay, I know what we're doing today because it's playtime. Because when you're at home with the kids, I mean, the days are long, they say, but the years are short. And I'm out of it now. So you got to be in it and appreciate it while you can, because then they're gone. So what are you imparting in them? I feel like the library and my experiences and books shaped who I am. I love a good self-help book. I love somebody to tell me what I could be doing better with my life, because it's so short and I'm trying to be the best person that I can be. And I love learning from other people and other experiences. And if I can learn something and then also then pass it on to someone else, like that little nugget I just gave you, because it touched me. When I heard it, I was like, what? It is so true. And someone recently also said to me, you got about 30 summers left. And I was like, what? God willing. But 30 summers, that's it? What am I doing? What books am I taking with me to the beach this summer? What am I reading? What am I doing to enhance this time and this experience that I'm having in this life? Because that's what it's all about. It's about connection, and it's about getting to be and growing to be your highest self, and hopefully leaving some of that with somebody else so that their journey can be better. That's what the library does for me. It's what it's done for me, and I'm so, so grateful. Yeah, and kudos to HPL and what you're doing for this project to celebrate and recognize 250 years, period. But also this project in terms of how this looks, because we're in 250 years. Like, this was not happening 250 years ago. So it's amazing. It means that, yes, we embrace technology and we embrace all things new, but that we also continue to hold and value old things. And there's probably someone that was like, books on audio, books on tape, books on CD, nah, pshaw. And, I love reading and actually holding a book. I absolutely do. But I also love my Kindle, because sometimes when I go on a vacation, I'm like, I don't know which book to take, and I can't take all of you. I don't know what I'm going to be in the mood for when I'm actually there. So to be able to have options on a Kindle, that's a beautiful thing. An honor for me. Love the library, love what you guys are doing, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to 250 Stories, a production of HPL Studios at Hartford Public Library. This episode was written and produced by Christopher T. Brown, sound by Sam Sigmund, edited by Faith Lucas, and with photography and graphic design support from Hartford Public Library's communications team and the Hartford History Center. For more information on this project, visit www.hplstudios.hplct.org. New episodes release every Tuesday, so subscribe to stay tuned.